Good afternoon. You're watching the English newscast on Future Television. I'm Yumna Naufal, and these are today's top stories. Supporters of the Free Patriotic Movement flock from all Lebanese regions to an area in Baabda to mark the anniversary of the ouster of FPM founder MP Michel Aoun. Maronite Patriarch Rai calls for an inter-Lebanese initiative to end the country's presidential vacuum. And Turkish-backed rebel fighters capture the Syrian town of Dabiq from Daesh. Supporters for the Free Patriotic Movement flocked from all Lebanese regions to an area outside the presidential palace in Baabda to mark the anniversary of the 1990 ouster of FPM founder MP Michel Aoun from the palace at the hands of Syrian forces. This year's rally was held under slogans urging respect for the 1943 National Pact, which is an unwritten agreement that set the foundations of modern Lebanon as a multi-confessional state based on Christian and Muslim partnership. The FPM's OTV broadcast footage showing FPM convoys heading to Baabda from areas across Lebanon. The FPM leader, Michel Aoun, said that respecting Lebanon's equal power sharing system between all religions will pave the way for building a proper state. October 13 marks the day that the Syrian army stormed the Baabda presidential palace in 1990, forcing Aoun, who was an army commander at the time, to leave the building and seek refuge at the French embassy before being exiled to France. Maronite Patriarch Rai is calling for an inter-Lebanese initiative to end the country's lengthy presidential vacuum. The Lebanese people have grown tired of the political practices of the past 2 years and 6 months, Rai lamented during his mass sermon, noting that those seeking a so-called package deal and certain agreements are actually seeking to split shares and gains at the expense of the public interest. Free Patriotic Movement founder MP Michel Aoun's chances to be elected president have largely surged in recent days. And Education Minister Ilyas Bousaab of the FPM announced that the future movement leader, former PM Saad Hariri, has officially decided to endorse Aoun's presidential bid. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry was still trying to build momentum behind a new drive to end the Syrian civil war after high-level talks with his counterpart, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, and the country's neighbors. Kerry was due to fly to London to brief Washington's European allies after brainstorming talks in Lausanne with the main players in Syria's 5-year-old conflict. The Swiss meeting, however, did not produce a concrete plan to restore the truce that collapsed last month amid bitter recriminations between Washington and Moscow and new fighting on the ground. But Kerry insists the new leaner contact group has come up with some plausible ideas that would be fleshed out in the coming days and might lead to a new, stronger ceasefire. But he said it was too early to reveal what the ideas were and that high-level contacts would continue on Monday to develop them. Turkish-backed rebel fighters captured the northern Syrian town of Dabiq from Daesh. The monitoring group and rebels are saying Dabiq is a central city that holds crucial ideological importance for Daesh because of a Sunni prophecy that states it will be the site of an end-of-times battle between Christian forces and Muslims. The town itself has negligible military value compared with the strategic Daesh-controlled cities of Raqqa in Syria and Mosul in Iraq. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights said rebels backed by Turkish warplanes and artillery captured Dabiq after Daesh members withdrew from the area. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights head Rami Abdurrahman said the fighters also captured the nearby town of Sauran. One Turkey-backed rebel faction also said Dabiq had fallen after fierce clashes with Daesh using the Arabic acronym for ISIS. Coming up next, Trump labels the women who are accusing him of sexual misconduct as phony people with phony allegations. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Yemen's Shia Houthi rebels demanded an international probe into an airstrike that has killed more than 140 people at a funeral after a Saudi-led Arab coalition admitted wrongly hitting it. The October 8th raid, condemned by Human Rights Watch as an apparent war crime, was one of the deadliest since the pro-government coalition launched an air campaign against the rebels and their allies in March 2015. The coalition's acknowledgement that it wrongly hit the funeral does not clear its leadership of violating international humanitarian law and all humanitarian norms and conventions, according to the rebel-controlled Foreign Ministry UN Chief Ban Ki-moon. He was stated to say that he should form an independent and international investigation committee headed by a high-profile, neutral and international personality as soon as possible to probe war crimes committed by the coalition in Yemen. The Iraqi army dropped tens of thousands of leaflets over Mosul before dawn, warning residents that an offensive to recapture their city from Daesh was in its final stages of preparation, according to a military statement in Baghdad. The leaflets carried several messages, one of them assuring the population that advancing army units and airstrikes will not target civilians, and another telling them to avoid known locations of Daesh militants. The assault on Mosul, the last city still standing under control of Daesh, could begin this month, according to Iraqi government and military officials. Daesh are expected to fight hard and have a history of forcing civilians to stay in harm's way during previous battles to defend territory. British lawmakers from across the political spectrum are to press their bid to force Prime Minister Theresa May to give Parliament a vote on her negotiating strategy for leaving the European Union, saying she has no mandate for a hard Brexit. As Britain embarks on some of its most complex diplomatic negotiations since World War II, Nick Clegg, the former Deputy Prime Minister, says May's plan to invoke Article 50 of the EU's Lisbon Treaty by the end of March, triggering the formal Brexit procedure, would hand power to the other 27 EU members. Lawmakers from the ruling Conservative Party, opposition Labour Party and Clegg's Liberal Democrats say they accepted Britain had voted to leave, but have called for a debate and vote in Parliament to try to influence the terms of the divorce. May, who was appointed Prime Minister shortly after the June referendum, last week said Parliament would have every opportunity to debate plans to leave the European Union. Vice presidential candidate Tim Kaine is dismissing Republican presidential nominee Donald Trump's assertion that the election is rigged against him. Trump is fighting to overcome setbacks in polls showing a tough path to the White House.
As Donald Trump realizes he's losing, and Hillary Clinton definitely made him realize in that first debate that he was a loser. I think Donald Trump has uttered those words a few times, and he probably thought about them when he walked off the stage after that first debate, but he can't even handle a loss and then try to come back strong. Now he's blaming everybody. It's the media's fault. It's the GOP's fault. It's everybody's fault. And now that, right, voter fraud, now that he thinks he's going to lose, he's going around and saying, oh, the whole thing's rigged. It's just rigged against me. Poor me. The guy's just a bully.
Republican U.S. presidential candidate Trump characterized several women who have accused him of sexual misconduct as phony people coming up with phony allegations during a rally in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Two women came forward with allegations that he had groped them, and the new accusations were made by a contestant on his reality TV show The Apprentice, who cited a 2007 incident, and by a woman who described an incident from the early 1990s.
We can't let them get away with this, folks. We can't. Total lies, and you've been seeing total lies. But we're going to stop it. We're not going to back down. And remember this, it's a rigged election because you have phony people coming up with phony allegations with no witnesses whatsoever, ending up from 20 years ago, 30 years ago. How about this crazy woman on the airplane? Okay? I mean, can anybody believe that one? How about this? After 15 minutes, we don't know each other. After 15 minutes, she said, well, that was too much, and I decided. 15 minutes? With the ladies in this place, it would be 1 second, and it would be smack. 15 minutes. And they have people that make a lot of money in the drug business, believe me. But we're like athletes, right? So athletes, they're making them more and more, but athletes, they make them take a drug test, right? I think we should take a drug test prior to the debate. I do. I think we should. Why don't we do that? We should take a drug test prior, because I don't know what's going on with her. But at the beginning of her last debate, she was all pumped up at the beginning. And at the end, it was like, oh, take me down. She could barely reach her car. So I think we should take a drug test. Anyway, I'm willing to do it. I had a great life. I got the best publicity. I have a great company. I built this incredible company. My life was so wonderful. Now I'm loving this because we're doing something that's going to be amazing. But we have to pull it off. It's going to be amazing. It's a movement the likes of which they've never seen before.
Director Steve McQueen received the British Film Institute's Fellowship Award at the London Film Festival Awards last night. The filmmaker behind hits including Oscar-winning 12 Years a Slave and Hunger said he was thrilled to be given the award, adding it's a wonderful honor. Raised in London by immigrants from Trinidad and Grenada, the director is known for tackling tough subject matters within his films. He says that all of his projects ultimately start with a good story. Quoting, "It's a story because if it doesn't grab you, you know, going back to when you was a kid, cross-legged in front of your teacher and he or she reading you a book, it's magic." With yet another award now under his belt, he claimed that his greatest achievement and challenge is always getting a film made in the first place, saying if you want to make films that are challenging, they always are difficult to get made, and I think you know the achievement of actually getting people who trust you, who want to work with you and get it made. That's the biggest achievement. And on that note, we end our bulletin for today. Now for a reminder of our headlines. Supporters of the Free Patriotic Movement flock all the way from different Lebanese regions to hear the FPM leader, Michel Aoun, speak. Shaddai calls for an inter-Lebanese initiative to end the country's presidential vacuum. And Turkish-backed rebel fighters capture the northern Syrian town of Dabik from the Daesh group. Those are your Sunday headlines live on Future Television. Have a good one.